Would you rather stick with the stocks on top or bet on the laggard? I mean, it is ultimate because we are talking about big cap companies.
You're right.
And it's also not just would you rather. It's would you rather.
Yeah.
Okay, now, Guy, can you process that?
Maybe you should start with Tim, because I got to think about the rules of the game.
Rules and how to play it.
Well, hold on. So you have three stocks, you're picking one.
Yeah.
Okay, I figured it out. I'm smarter than I look, which is not a high bar. So in terms, you would think the answer is Apple, the underperformer. It's going to play a little catch up. Then you'd think maybe Nvidia has all this sort. I'm going to take Microsoft, which is odd, but at 32 times it's where it's trading. I mean, it's expensive, but not expensive to itself over the last couple of years. And I think, in my opinion, they probably still have the widest and the deepest moat. So in this game of would you rather that I just played correctly, it's Microsoft.
Do either of you agree with Microsoft, Tim?
I'm afraid I do. And by the way, when we're done with this, you're going to have the ultimate game of would you rather, Guy, Tim, or Steve. But that's
Dan.
Well, Dan, if Dan was here in person, it would be the greatest game of would you rather. But it's definitely Microsoft to me because relative to itself, this valuation, Guy's saying on a forward basis, actually looks the most interesting. Certainly relative to Meta, which would be my number 2, and Apple would be number 3. I think I just would you rather, because I don't even think you had Meta in there.
Meta wasn't there.
Okay, so in something that wasn't.
So when Guy didn't know how to play by the rules of the game, he was really talking about Tim. I think if you look at Microsoft from a year-over-year perspective, it's only up 9% on a rolling one-year basis. That's not enough to mean anything, except for the fact that this was dead money for a year and a half. I think what we've done is we've rekindled the concept around both the margin around software, Microsoft's leadership in terms of AI, their partnership with ChatGPT, and if I'm going to pay up for growth here, I actually think on a relative basis, it's Microsoft. It seems to be the most defensive. But again, I doesn't mean I don't like Nvidia.
Don't tell me you're going to say Microsoft.
I was, but I'm not going to say it because I don't want to say I don't want to have a triple.
But your gut instinct is Microsoft.
My gut instinct
to agree.
Triple.
My gut instinct was where Guy was going secondarily to Apple because it's been the underperformer. But I will tell you that Nvidia, I would pick that last out of the whole group. I think that everyone's working on their own chips. Got to take away from revenue from Nvidia. That's got to be a headwind. So every one of the Mag 7 names are all working on their own specific chip. Having said that, Microsoft has done the best job at working at it. And they also cut back on data centers. So they seem to think they've got it pretty well covered with the CapEx that they've already spent. So it would be Microsoft, but I do like the catch-up play with Apple. So I'm going to go Apple. I'm going to go Apple with the install base. Apple's install base.
Like a utility.
Margins on Apple, exactly. Margins on Apple, the services revenue. You have over 2.3 billion users. Got to be able to continue monetizing that. Everyone's bet against Apple, and I think Apple's going to pull a rabbit out of a hat, whether it's Perplexity or whether it's something else. I think that they will catch up in the stock.
Dan, you're in San Francisco, and I feel like you have said negative things about all three of these stocks at some point in recent history. So where do you stand here?
Yeah, I think for Apple, that installed base is actually a problem because I think that they will not have a phone in 2025 that is going to be attractive to those folks who want some sort of integrated AI experience. Apple Intelligence was a total bust. Siri has not kept pace. So as far as I'm concerned, this is a company that spends low single digits of their revenue on CapEx and R&D. I think that's correct for both of them, and it's way below all of those names in the hyperscaler space that have actually been making these investments for a while. So Apple, to me, is the dead bang loser, and I think you can continue to bet against it, especially as you get into 2026, because they're not going to have products that folks want right now. So Microsoft, go back to that quarter they just reported. They had their cloud was better than expected. They guided cloud up for the current quarter a few percentage points. AI is making up a greater percentage of that cloud revenue. That's the story right now. And to the point about CapEx is like, yeah, they were growing CapEx at a massive pace, double digits percent of their revenue, but that's coming down now. They just said it's going to be in line basically with their revenue growth. So hopefully they start to get some leverage on that spend. And when you think about their install base and their ability to kind of cross-sell these products. But I'm not buying it here. And I'm not buying Nvidia here. And I'm not buying Apple here. And I'm not buying Meta here because the market feels like it's kind of taken in all of this good news about this trade right here, and some of these stocks, the way they've performed off the lows, I just don't think the valuations right here and the optimism as we go into the second half, I think it's going to be a bit misplaced.